Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today, we find ourselves in Hokkaido's beautiful mountainous landscape. Hokkaido is the second standalone game in the Nippon series, bringing new ideas and mechanisms to the first design, which was called Honshu. Hokkaido is a drafting and map building card game for 2 to 5 players, takes 30 to 40 minutes to play, is for ages 8 and up, and is published by Renegade Game Studios. Today, we'll be doing a rule school where I'll teach you how to set up and play the game so that you don't have to read the rulebook yourself. Now, I've placed timestamps below me in the description of this video, just in case you want to jump to a specific section of the rules. Without further ado, let's get started. Hokkaido is a drafting and map building card game for 2 to 5 players, where over 12 rounds you're going to be building up your very own map. You'll be starting with one single province card, but you'll be drafting from a hand of cards, trying to figure out which card to place and how you can place it in all sorts of different ways. And then you'll be getting cards from other players, which you'll then be drafting more cards from. Some cards will offer production cubes, which allow you to use these to either discard a pair of them to add new tiles to different desert landscapes, or at the end of the game you can move them to factories for points. But with the simple mechanisms, there's a lot of depth because there's different ways to score, and every game feels different because there's 60 different map cards and they can be turned in all sorts of different ways and placed above or beneath certain cards, so each map feels very unique. To set up, you're first going to take all the terraforming tiles and put them in the middle of the table. You're also going to take all of the cubes, which are different resources, 4 different resources, and place them in piles like that. Now those are limited resources, and if you run out, they're all gone. Next, you're going to find the starting provinces cards. There's 6 of them. They'll have an A on one side and a B on the other side. All players must play on the same side. For your first game, we recommend A. You're going to randomly shuffle these up and deal 1 to each player. Any leftover will be placed back in the box. Now, there are some cards that we haven't used yet, and they have this sort of brown background in them. Some of them are going to be numbered from 1 to 9. These are gold cards, they're optional, and we recommend you not play with them in the first game. So these 9 cards you can take and remove and put them back in the box for your first game. We'll talk about that at the end of this video. The other cards are all going to be the same. These essentially are scoring summary cards. There's 1 for each possible player. Give each player 1 of these and any leftover so you can place back in the box. And when you receive that starting province card, you're going to place resource cubes on any of the squares that you see on there that have the logos and a color. You're going to take the corresponding colored cube resource. So in this case, this is a brown one, so we'll put a brown cube there. And this one is green, and so we'll put a green one like that. You'll then find all of the map cards. You'll shuffle this deck, and you'll deal 6 cards face down to each player. Now, that player can pick these cards up and look at them, but they don't want to show them to any opponents. And then you'll place the rest of those map cards in the middle of the table. You'll be drawing from this later in the game. The object of the game is to have the most points at the end of the game. And you'll be getting those depending on how you've built your map throughout the game. For example, you're going to be scoring points for your single mountain range that goes through your map. You'll be getting points for the different forests that are around. One of your contiguous towns is going to get you points. You're also going to be getting points for putting cubes on factories. And you'll be getting points for contiguous lakes, but a lot of that we'll go over later in the final scoring. The game is played over 12 rounds, and each round is 2 phases. You're first going to be drafting cards, and then you're going to be expanding your map in the map phase, adding to this. So in the draft phase, you're going to take the cards that are in front of you. Obviously, you're going to look at them, and you're going to select one of these to keep that you're going to be placing and adding to your map. The card that you do select, you're going to take it and you're going to place it face down right in front of you, just like this. And it doesn't matter which way you put it. And then the other cards that you have not selected is going to get passed to your player to your left, clockwise like that, which means you're going to receive cards from the player to your right, and you're just going to keep these next to you. Do not look at these cards before the next round. Now, if you're playing a 2-player game, the draft phase is a little different. You'll still select 1 card like normal like that, but to the ones that you did not select, you're going to add 1 from the top of the deck, and from all those cards, including the one you just added from the top of the deck, you're going to look at them and decide which one of these to actually discard out of the game. Then with the remaining cards, you're going to pass them clockwise to that other player. And again, when you receive them, you still don't look at these for now. Then you move on to the map phase for this round. Remember, the game is 12 rounds long. You're going to flip this up, and this is done simultaneously, so the other players will be doing it as well. However, if someone doesn't want to do it simultaneously, they mention so, and then every player is going to go in order of lowest number to highest number on the card that was just drafted. Now, when you place a card that you've just drafted in your map, you're essentially expanding it, and there are some placement rules. The card can go either vertically or horizontally, and you have to at least cover one square with this new card on a card like this, or it can be covered like that. But you can cover more than one square. You just can't place it so that it's completely underneath another card like that, for example. And when placing a card, if you end up covering one of the squares on your map card that has a resource cube on it like that, you end up just moving this and putting it right back into the supply. Now, one other placement rule, this is another player's starting province. Anytime you have a lake square like this, and you're in the map phase, you can never place something so that it covers a lake. So lakes can never be covered, but you can go underneath lakes like this, for example. So let's step back for a moment and look at our starting province card. You'll notice here that we have some mountains. We're going to talk about mountains now. Over the course of the game, you're going to be building one continuous mountain throughout your entire map. And a mountain is contiguous if it's orthogonally adjacent, like these two, or diagonal. So this is one continuous mountain. Now, as you're adding a card to your map, if you have a card that also has a mountain on it like this mountain must continue on this single mountain. For example, you could place this card so that it is either directly below the bottom piece of this mountain, it could be diagonally down like this, or it could be diagonally down like this. This is the only 3 spots on this bottom side that you can continue the mountain: diagonally, directly, or diagonally off like this. You can't put it up like this because it's going sideways. You always have to build it down and away from it like this. Or if you're building it on the top, again, same thing. It could be here diagonally, or you could even do it up like this so it's diagonally like this. Also, when you're placing cards, you can never place it so that all the squares are covered, essentially putting it underneath the card. You cannot do that. So anytime you place a mountain, you have to make sure it shows, and then it's either just on top or diagonally above or below the top or bottom mountain respectively. And you can never have a mountain square on your card get covered like that. It always has to add to a continuous mountain that's already there. Now, when you're placing a map card like this, if you see a place to place a resource cube, you'll do that. Here there's just one, but let's say we placed it kind of like this. Now in this case, this still continues this mountain, but we have 2 cubes to place. You'll take them from the resources, the color that is associated with that, and you'll place those cubes on there just like that. And once everyone's finished your map phase, you'll go back to the draft phase, where you'll be taking those cards that the other player passed from you, you'll be selecting one to put down, and then you'll be flipping over, going to the map phase and adding, and you'll continue doing this until each player has drafted 6 cards and placed 6 cards, meaning each player will have a total of 7 cards because they all start with a province card. So let's fast forward to the end of the 6th round, meaning there's going to be 7 cards here. You'll be about halfway through the game. And this is how it might look when someone's playing their last drafted card, meaning it's the end of the 6th round. Now notice also that some of the cards have these little starburst symbols. These are factories, and they also correspond to the different resource cube types. When you place one of these, do not place a cube on them. You only place the cube on the spots that are squares like this, not the ones with the starburst. These are going to get you points later on that we'll show you during scoring. And so you're going to deal out each player 6 more map cards from the deck, just like you did at the beginning of the game. So you're going to continue going through those 2 phases, the draft phase and the map phase. However, during the draft phase, after you select a card, instead of passing it to the left like you did the first 6 rounds, you're going to pass it to your player to your right. And that is because for the last 6 rounds, it's going to be going in the opposite direction, and you still don't look at those cards being passed to you until after the map phase. And now that you can see how a map sort of develops with the single mountain range going either diagonally or up and down, but never to the side, you can never split off, and remember, they can never be covered up. So this is how the mountain will go. You'll have one single continuous mountain going through your map. This is going to be very important because as we get to final scoring, you're going to be doing some things on both sides of these for some of the scoring. Now, as you place in the map phase, once per map phase, you can decide to terraform. And this can be done before or after you place in the map phase. You can discard any 2 cubes of the same color, and then depending on the color of that cube, you'll be able to add a terraforming tile to your map. Now here I show you, depending on which cube colors you discarded, you'll take a certain tile. For example, here, if it's brown, you'd take a town tile. A blue, the lake tile, the green, the forest, and the gray, you'd take a mountain. And you take that tile, in this case the forest because we used 2 green, and place it on any of the desert tiles. So let's say we place it sort of just like that, if you will. And remember, you're always terraforming either before or after you're placing the map card for that round. So you'll continue building your map until the 12th round is over, and then you go to final scoring. You'll put the players' names up in the top here, and then you're going to go through each of these steps. The mountains, the forest, the towns, factories, and the lakes. Now this is a scoring summary card which was given at the beginning that will help you score these as you walk you through them. So let's go back and look at our final map. Here's my map at the end of the game, and you're going to use the scoring pad given to keep track of all the scores, and you're going to reference your scoring card as well. The first thing you do is you're going to score the mountains. Mountains are going to get 2 points for each one there. Notice again we have that one contiguous mountain going sort of north and south through our map, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. They're each worth 2 points, so 12 points for the mountains. Then we'll go on to scoring the forest. They're also worth 2 points each. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 1 from our terraforming tiles, 6, 7, 8. 8 times 2, we have 16 points. Next, we're going to score the towns, which is the trickiest one to score. This is when we're going to use our single mountain and be looking at things to the left and the right side of it. For example, we're going to look at everything to the right of our mountain, and we're going to see what is our largest single contiguous orthogonally town section. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This one is not part of it because it's not orthogonally, it's diagonal. So this is 6. This right here is 3, 1, 1, and we have 4. So the largest one here is this one of 6. Now when doing this, since you're going to the right or the left, at the top of the mountain and the bottom of the mountain, if there's anything directly in that line, either above or below, those towns don't count. So draw an imaginary line. These 2 would not count. This is just the size of 1. This one does not count, so it's not there. That did not affect this one. So here's 6. You're going to do the same on this side. This is the size of 2, 1, 3, and 3. So the largest on this side is 3. These 2 are tied for it. So we have a 6 and a 3. Between those 2, you're going to take the smaller of those, and you're going to score those 2 points for each of those towns. So in this case, we have a 3, and times 2 is going to be 6 points. Next, we're going to do factories. Now, factories are those starburst looking patterns that I talked about a little bit earlier, and you'll notice they'll have 4 little point markers there on each of them. And what that means is that if you have a resource cube of that type, you can move it at that point to the factory and score 4 points for each of those. So I have a brown cube here to go on here, and a silver one to go there. This is going to get me 4 points, and that's going to get me 4 points for a total of 8. Then you're going to score the lakes. Now in the lakes, you're going to look at the orthogonally contiguous lake squares, and you're going to score them accordingly. Here we have a lake that's 3. The first one's always 0, but every other one after that is 3 points. So this is 0, this is 3, and this is 3. So this one is a total of 6. Over here, this one is 0, because the first one's always 0, and this one's 3. So this one is 3 points. So we have the 6 from here, and the 3 from here, so we have 9 points for the lake. And then you'd simply add up all of that, and you'd have a total, and you'd do that for all players. And so in this case, this player has 51. Whoever has the most points at this time is the winner. And if it's tied, whoever has the most visible deserts is the winner. In this case, we have 2, 4, 5 of those. And if it's still tied, those players share the victory. Now you can play with an optional rule using these gold cards. These are the cards numbered 1 through 9 that we put back in the box during the normal setup. Now how you get this set up is you're going to shuffle all 9 of these cards, and you'll place out the number of players plus 2. So in a 5-player game, you'd have 7 cards. But I'm going to leave all 9 out here because I'm going to explain them for you. Now how this works is at the end of each round, all available gold cards are checked in ascending order from lowest number to highest number to see if anybody fulfills the goal. Now to fulfill a goal, at least 3 different cards of your map have to be used in order to fulfill any of these goal cards. There is one exception, we'll get to that in a moment. For example, the first to have 5 separate forest areas will get this, it'll be worth 3 points. Now if only one player fulfills that goal, they'll take it. However, if it's tied, you look at this tiebreaker. It'll either be the smallest or the largest. See, we see a small circle on top for the first 4 and a large one on top for the 5 through 9. What that means is you look at the card number that they placed that round in the draft phase. When they added it in the map phase, this is the number, and whoever played the smallest number would win it. That's tied in these ones. Whoever played the largest number if you're tied for one of those ones. Number 2 is you have to have a difference of 5 towns between your largest town on both sides of the mountain. This one is 6, this one is 1. It's the largest towns on both sides of the mountain. It's at least a difference of 5, and that's how you get that card. Number 3 is to have 3 separate lake areas. Number 4 is to have 5 orthogonally adjacent mountain squares. Number 5 is to have 6 resource cubes present on your map. Number 6 is to have all 4 types of the production squares, so the different types of, where you would normally put those different colored cubes. Number 7 is to have all 4 different types of the factories. Number 8 is to have, be the first to have 3 orthogonally or diagonally adjacent production and or factory squares. So they could be orthogonal or diagonal, and it could be the regular production squares or the factories, the first to have 3 of those. And number 9 is the first that has terraformed twice, meaning have put 2 tiles out. This is the only one that is the exception, that you need to have 3 of these map cards to be part of it. Well, I hope this helped you dive right into Hokkaido and get to the fun quicker than you normally would if you had to read the rulebook yourself. Now, if you have further questions about the rules, I've placed a link below me in the description of this video, and that's the best place to ask them, because not only will I be notified, but so will Renegade Game Studios.